Okay, picture this. It's 1845. Two of the most high-tech ships on the entire planet, the HMS Erebus and the HMS Terror, sail out of England. Their mission? To conquer the final frontier of exploration, the legendary Northwest Passage. They were meant to come back as national heroes. Instead, they sailed into the Arctic ice and just vanished.
And that number right there, 129, that's the human cost. 129 officers and men, just gone. Wiped off the face of the earth, leaving behind one of the greatest, most haunting maritime mysteries of all time. For over a century and a half, the world could do nothing but guess at their horrific fate.
So what really happened to the Franklin expedition? Well, now, thanks to some incredible modern science and frankly unbelievable underwater discoveries, we're finally starting to piece together the truth. And let me tell you, it's a story that's far more terrifying than anyone ever dared to imagine. To really get why this disaster was so huge, you have to understand the mission itself. See, this wasn't just about drawing new lines on a map. This was about power, it was about money, and it was about national pride. The British Empire was absolutely obsessed with finding this one thing.
The prize was massive, and this little comparison really shows you why. At the time, if you wanted to trade with Asia, you had to take the long, brutal journey all the way around South America. But the Northwest Passage, that was the dream. A shortcut right through the top of the world that would slash travel time, generate unbelievable wealth, and basically cement Britain's control of the seas. This was the space race of its day, no question.
And the leadership team? Well, it was kind of a powder keg waiting to explode. You had Sir John Franklin, a respected but older commander, desperate to redeem himself after a previous disastrous expedition. His number two, Francis Crozier, was arguably the most experienced Arctic explorer alive, but his Irish roots kept him from the top job. And then there was James Fitzjames, a young, charming officer who got his command through connections, not deep-sea experience. You throw all that ego, insecurity, and ambition together, and you've got a recipe for tension right from the start.
And they were given the absolute best ships money could buy. The Erebus and Terror weren't just vessels. They were the starships of their era. We're talking hulls reinforced with iron to smash through ice, locomotive steam engines to push through calm seas, and even a central heating system for the crew. They seemed completely, utterly invincible.
And they were stocked to survive just about anything. They had enough supplies for 3 whole years, a library with over 1,000 books, and critically, 16,000 tins of canned food. This brand new technology was supposed to be the answer to starvation and scurvy. But this arrogance, this belief that they could conquer nature with iron and steam, it hid a fatal flaw. The very innovation that was supposed to save them would become their silent killer.
So you've got the best ships, the best supplies. What could possibly go wrong? Well, as it turns out, it wasn't one single thing. It was a slow, agonizing cascade of failures, terrible luck, and deadly, deadly mistakes.
This timeline just shows how quickly things fell apart. They leave England in May 1845. By July, they're spotted for the last time by some whalers. They make it through their first winter, but lose 3 men. But the critical moment, the point of no return, is September 1846. The ships get trapped, frozen solid in the ice. By June of the next year, the commander, Sir John Franklin himself, is dead. And finally, in April 1848, the 105 men left alive make the fateful decision to abandon their ships.
So while they're trapped in the ice, their high-tech food supply is slowly killing them. See, the canning contract had been rushed. The tins were made on the cheap and sealed with thick, sloppy globs of lead solder. So every single day, with every single meal, the men were unknowingly poisoning themselves. Lead was seeping into their food, causing paranoia, weakness, and confusion. And it gets worse. Even the fresh water from their fancy desalination system was running through lead pipes. They were being poisoned from all sides.
So you see, it was a perfect storm of invisible enemies. It was this trifecta of doom. You've got the lead poisoning, which is weakening their bodies and messing with their minds. Then you have scurvy, the classic sailor's disease, because the canning process had destroyed all the vitamin C in their food. And on top of all that, tuberculosis was already spreading among the crew. Each problem made the others worse, creating this downward spiral of sickness and despair they just couldn't escape. Honestly, they were doomed before they ever set foot on the ice. Franklin is dead. They've been trapped for almost 2 years. The new commander, Francis Crozier, makes a last desperate call. They're going to abandon the ships and try to walk to safety across the frozen wasteland.
Nothing shows how desperate they were more than this right here. They left a note in a pile of stones in May 1847. It's a standard form, and it just says, "All is well." Almost a year later, a party comes back to that same spot and scribbles a horrifying update in the margins. It says 105 survivors have abandoned the ships, and that 24 men are already dead. In less than a year, their entire world had just collapsed.
And their plan was basically a death march. These men, weakened by lead poisoning, scurvy, and starvation, had to haul heavy lifeboats that they'd mounted on sledges. Each one of those sledges weighed more than 3 tons. Just think about that. Dragging a 3-ton burden across jagged, frozen sea ice. It was an impossible task.
And their destination? The Back River, 240 kilometers away. It was a tiny sliver of hope that this river could lead them to a fur trading post, a tiny dot on a map in a sea of endless white, and one by one, they began to fall.
For decades, the only clues about what happened next came from the local Inuit people. They told stories of skeletal-looking white men stumbling across the ice, and they reported something the British government refused to believe for over a century: evidence of cannibalism. They had seen the survivors eating the bodies of their dead friends just to stay alive.
But the story doesn't end there. Lost on the ice. For nearly 170 years, the mystery just hung in the air. But now, with modern tech, we're finally starting to pull the answers out of the cold, dark depths. And the search itself is an epic story. The crew was officially declared lost in 1854. It wasn't until 1993, almost 150 years later, that archaeological evidence finally proved the Inuit stories of cannibalism were true. But the real breakthrough, the moment that changed everything, was in 2014 when the wreck of the Erebus was found, and then, just 2 years later, the incredible discovery of the Terror. And the condition of these 2 ships tells its own story. The Erebus was found pretty beaten up, but the Terror, it was found in a place called Terror Bay, sitting perfectly upright on the ocean floor, almost spookily preserved by the freezing water. It's a true underwater time capsule. We're talking plates still stacked in the cabinets and scientific instruments just sitting on the shelves, waiting.
So finding the HMS Terror isn't really the end of the story. It's a brand new chapter. As researchers send down robots to explore its cabins, they might find things like written logs, maybe even early photographs, who knows? Which leaves us with the biggest question of all. What final, dark secrets about this doomed expedition are still locked away inside that ghost ship, just waiting at the bottom of the world to be discovered?